The pre-lab talk of lung cancer consists of two sets of videos. In the first, I'll give you a brief summary of the structure of the lungs and the nature of bronchiogenic carcinomas. And in the second set, which consists of two parts, I will consider the individual slides and point out structures that you should observe. Now, bronchiogenic carcinomas represent the vast majority of lung tumors. The term bronchiogenic simply means that the tumor originates from the bronchial or the bronchiolar epithelium, as shown in this diagram here. The bronchiogenic carcinomas exclude such things as mesotheliomas, which are tumors of the epithelium lining the outside of the lungs, and also excludes cancers from other organs that have metastasized to the lungs. One of the most striking features of lung cancer is its lethality, as illustrated by this chart. The upper panel shows the incidence of different types of cancers. As you can see, lung cancer comes in second for both sexes, in men after prostate cancer and in women after breast cancer. Now compare this to the lower panel that shows the mortality due to the same types of cancers. In this case, lung cancer is by far the leading cause of cancer death in both men and women. The reason for the difference between the incidence and mortality is that while lung cancer does not occur all that frequently, it is far more lethal. Indeed, it is responsible for about 7% of death from all causes, not just cancer. Another significant feature of lung cancer is its close link to smoking. This figure shows the 4 different types of bronchiogenic carcinomas, which I will discuss in a minute. What I want you to observe here is that for each subtype of carcinoma, the vast majority is associated with smoking. Indeed, long-term exposure to tobacco smoke is responsible for 80 to 90% of lung cancer, while only 10 to 15% occur in non-smokers. One aspect of the association between lung cancer and smoking is the long lag period. As shown in this figure, there is a lag period of about 20 years between the increase in cigarette consumption and the associated increase in the incidence of lung cancer. Now, before I go into the classification of lung cancer, I would like to go over the gross and microscopic anatomy of the lungs. Perhaps the best way to understand the structure of the lungs is to follow the air passageways. Here you can see the trachea coming and dividing into 2 primary bronchi, one to the right and the other to the left lung. They enter the lung at the hilar region, which is also where blood vessels and nerves enter and exit. Now, the primary bronchus inside the lung starts to branch and give rise to secondary and tertiary bronchi. You should note that all the bronchi contain cartilage in their walls to act as reinforcement. Finally, the tertiary bronchi branch further and give rise to the bronchioles. Note that in contrast to the bronchi, these lack cartilage in their walls. The bronchioles in turn branch to form terminal bronchioles, which finally end in air sacs or alveoli that are shaped like a bunch of grapes. This is where gas exchange takes place. The epithelium here is very thin, and oxygen gas can diffuse across it into the blood capillaries that surround it. Now, the nature of the epithelium that lines the air passageways changes as it undergoes this branching. In particular, it gets thinner. The epithelium lining the bronchi is classified as pseudostratified columnar with cilia and goblet cells. Remember that pseudostratified means that while all the cells rest on the basement membrane, not all of them reach the free surface. However, the epithelium lining the bronchioles transitions from pseudostratified columnar to simple cuboidal. Remember that the term simple means that it is only one cell layer thick. Finally, the bronchioles give way to the alveoli, where the epithelial cells become simple squamous. As I said before, this is very thin and allows gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse through them. There is one cell type I would like to briefly discuss because of its importance in lung cancer. These are the pulmonary neuroendocrine cells, or PNEC for short. These are bottle-shaped cells that lie on the basement membrane and contain secretory granules of amines and peptide-type hormones such as serotonin and calcitonin. In this diagram, they are shown in blue. They are considered to be part of the neuroendocrine system that integrates the nervous system with the endocrine system. Now, the PNEC occur throughout the respiratory tract. They can occur as either single cells or in clusters. In either case, they are relatively rare cells and difficult to identify without special staining. I will now consider the classification of bronchiogenic carcinomas. Traditionally, these carcinomas have been classified according to their histological morphology into two major groups: small cell carcinoma and non-small cell carcinomas, or NSCC. And the non-small cell carcinomas can be further subdivided into three groups: squamous cell carcinoma, adenocarcinoma, and finally large cell carcinomas. Now, what I would like to do is consider each of these four types of lung cancer in a bit more detail. This is a figure taken from the pathology textbook showing the morphology of the different types of bronchiogenic carcinomas. The upper left panel shows small cell carcinoma, which, as the name suggests, consists of small cells with condensed nuclei that often occur in clusters. These cells are believed to be related to the pulmonary neuroendocrine cells because they often produce ectopic factors such as ACTH and parathyroid hormone. The remaining three panels show examples of non-small cell carcinomas. On the bottom left is squamous cell carcinoma that is characterized by the presence of desmosomal junctions between the cells, which have the appearance of little spikes. In well-differentiated tumors, they may form structures known as keratin pearls, in which the squamous cells are wrapped around each other, much like an onion. In the lower right-hand corner is an example of adenocarcinoma, which has a gland-like character to it. And finally, on the upper right-hand corner is large cell carcinoma, which is also known as undifferentiated carcinoma. This is generally diagnosed by exclusion. The cells do not have the characteristics of either squamous cells or adenocarcinoma. Now, this figure, which you have seen before, shows the relative frequency of the four different types of bronchiogenic carcinomas. Please note that adenocarcinomas, shown in yellow here, are the most prevalent type, and that a significant fraction of them occur in non-smokers. On the opposite end of the spectrum is small cell carcinoma, shown in red here, which is almost always associated with smoking. This slide summarizes some of the other features of the different types of bronchiogenic carcinomas. Please note that they often occur in different locations in the lungs, as listed here and is illustrated in the following slide. In this figure, you can see that small cell and squamous cell carcinomas tend to occur centrally near the hilar region, while adenocarcinomas tend to occur more peripherally in the lungs. One theory that could account for this and other differences between these bronchiogenic tumors is that they are derived from different stem cell populations within the lungs. These stem cells are believed to occur at branching points of the airways, as illustrated in the next slide. According to this theory, different sets of stem cells give rise to the different populations of epithelial cells, and they reside in different locations within the lungs. In this figure, these different stem cell populations are indicated by the red arrows on the left and include the basal cells, the neuroendocrine cells, the Clara cells, and the bronchioalveolar stem cells, or BASC. Now, when these stem cells become malignant, they give rise to the different types of tumors. For example, the basal cells of the bronchi are believed to give rise to squamous cell carcinoma, while the neuroendocrine or Clara cells give rise to small cell carcinomas. And finally, the bronchioalveolar stem cells at the junction of the bronchi and the alveoli give rise to adenocarcinomas. Now, this theory could account for the different location of these tumors. However, I must emphasize that this is just a theory at present. Now, the classification of bronchiogenic carcinomas has a major impact on the prognosis. In general, small cell carcinoma is worse than non-small cell carcinoma. As shown here, small cell carcinoma does not respond well to surgical intervention because these tumors are diffuse and in general have already metastasized prior to diagnosis. In contrast, non-small cell carcinomas can, in many cases, be treated by surgery. If the tumor mass of non-small cell carcinoma is located in the periphery of the lungs, it may be possible to treat it by removing one or more lobes of the lung. If the tumor is located more centrally, then surgery may still be possible, but is more difficult. Similarly, the response of small cell and non-small cell carcinomas to chemotherapy is different. In this chart, I have listed the response of small cell carcinoma to chemo as being plus/minus, because the tumors generally respond well initially. However, the tumors almost always recur. The results have been discouraging. In contrast, all three types of non-small cell carcinoma do respond to chemo. Now, this concludes the video on the general properties of lung cancer.